cut every time. And so one of the things I really love is the fact that our chief, Fabio Galli, in corporate, has recognized the need for improvement. Give them a round of applause, guys. Here's why I point out, if the company's growing and improving, what do you think you should be doing? That's my message, growing and improving. And so I'm excited, guys. I want you to go ahead, get your pens and paper, because you're going to hear from the source directly. Everybody stand to your feet as we welcome the brand new Chief and Sales Marketing Officer, Doug Robinson.
Thank you very much. I have to tell you, when I spoke with Ramasio last night to get a lay of kind of how today was going to go, and importantly this morning, he said, Doug, I'll get up at 9 o'clock sharp. Julie's going to introduce me. I'm going to speak for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to introduce you. So you now have a sense for time today. So when Ramasio says you're going to have a lunch break around 12:30, it'll be about 5 or 6 this evening. Good luck. But seriously, I am incredibly honored and humbled to be here today, not just here in Los Angeles with you, but here with the company. And I think the theme for this event is incredibly apropos all my life. And as Julie, in her opening remarks, said, this is about, that moment in time where everything that you've done prior comes together here. And just this morning, when I was having breakfast with Antonio Pagano, he said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, I don't know. But I really did know that I was going to talk about really all the culmination that brings us here today, because that's really why I'm here. So let me just take a few moments for those of you that have not had a chance to meet me before or work with me or knew very many things about me and my past. Let me bring you up to speed a bit, because really I think it is germane and very apropos on why I'm here today. Again, not just in Los Angeles, but here at World Global Network. So as Ramasio said, I've spent, I'll fill in the blank a bit, almost 30 years in healthcare operations and management. And for many of those years, I was a strategist. I worked with the Fortune 100, the largest of large companies, with their challenges in offering healthcare to their employees. They often spent north of $1 billion a year on offering healthcare benefits to their employees, and worse yet, that cost was doubling every 5 years. So it didn't matter if it was a Boeing or a Microsoft or an Apple. As successful as those companies are, in every way you can find that term, they were very concerned about healthcare. So I was with firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte Consulting, heading up their US healthcare consulting practices and helping companies better manage that healthcare spend. After that, I spent about 12 years running 3 different companies as a president and CEO. 2 of them were public, 1 was private. And I got a great sense for companies. What makes great companies are people like yourselves that can count on the company to be there for you through good times, through tough times, and there will be tough times, whether it's macroeconomic issues, the economy, or something in the privacy of your own home will make matters difficult and tough. And you need to know that the companies that are successful today and going forward are those companies that are there for you through thick and thin from an operational standpoint. You can have companies that have arguably the best products known, the most leading edge technological sound products. But if they're not sound operationally and they're not there for you, those are the kind of companies that kind of come and go, okay? So I learned all of this over these years of how to make companies really, really great. And my last company, in fact, the company that Ramasio was referring to, I left there in February of 2015, just over 3 years ago. And Romacio joined sometime thereafter. So we never had a chance to work together there. Didn't even know each other. But I'm here to tell you, I left that company because of an integrity issue. I was the CEO, public company. The board was asking me to do two things. I won't share with you what they are, but they were things that I vehemently disagreed with. It would not have been good for the customer base, for the shareholders, for the employees, for the distributors. This was a network marketing company. So I said to the board, no, not doing that. I found out that that request, that ask, was really a demand. And in October of 2014, when I was first, and I'll do it with air quotes, asked to do these things, I was given until January to make that happen, to follow through on this. And I told the board at that point in time, I can give you my answer right now. It's no. For all the reasons that I just described. Wouldn't be good for the shareholders, the employees, the distributors, the reputation of the company, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not doing it. We moved on to other issues at that board meeting. Fast forward 3 months. January 1st rolled around, and the chairman of the board called me on January 2nd or 3rd, whatever the first business day was after the holiday. And he said, Doug, we need a progress report on those issues that we talked to you about in October. And I was kind of blown away because I thought we had had that discussion and it was over with when I said I'm not doing it. And that's when I learned that that request, that ask, was really a demand. So I reminded him on that phone call that my answer was in October, and in January remains the same. It's no, not doing these things. About a month later, in February, we had a board meeting that was hastily called. I knew what it was about. The board meeting, start to finish, was 15 minutes in length. I was given one more opportunity to say yes, as opposed to no, and I held strong. Again, for all the same reasons. So I left the company at that point in time. I was 52 then, and I wasn't about to compromise who I was, how I was brought up as an individual, and all that I stood for professionally, for any company, for any issue. Yeah. So I was no longer there, and that was a company that I had put in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years as a board member first, and 4 years as president and CEO, and grew the company, as Romacio said, quite well. But beyond the sales, beyond the revenue, beyond the profits, which are all important in corporate America, I think the real impact was with people like yourselves, the distributors, of what the company is and what it stands for. In fact, there's an incredible book, I would recommend it, as much as book knowledge is something you shouldn't take in. There is a great book by an author, Roy Spence Jr. In fact, everyone in this room, even people internationally, I think would know who Roy is. You just don't know you know him. If anyone has seen the Southwest Airlines commercials, Roy is the guy behind those commercials. He runs a public relations firm in Austin, Texas. And one of his clients for years has been Southwest Airlines. So he's got a real knack for public relations and advertising and things like that. He wrote a business book several years ago called It's Not What You Sell, It's What You Stand For. And I think that's incredibly poignant for all of us in this room. Because we have just incredible products. And beyond the product base, we have an incredible compensation plan and a culture around World Global Network. But all of that is important, but not so important where you don't ask yourself, what do we really stand for? And I think it is a we. What do you stand for individually, but collectively, a culture? What do we stand for? So for those of you that are inclined, it's a great read. It's not a long book or anything like that, but it really does pinpoint exactly the points that I'm trying to make here. Well, Romacio he did enter that company that I left. He was there for not all that long, from what I can understand. But he did connect with the other distributor leaders. And I think that's where he was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where he was introduced to me, a former CEO there. And Romacio called me, you gotta get the time frame right there. Probably, help me out, Romacio, when did you first call me about world. You were in Miami.
Yeah.
April of
2017.
last year. So here I am. I forget what I was doing that particular day, but I get this phone call out of the blue. Look at my phone from Osteoculture. I take the call. He's all excited. I know that's shocking for you to understand. But, I thought I had the volume wrong on my phone the whole world. And he was in Miami and he was having lunch with Fabio Galdi. And he said, there's someone, I just got to introduce you to this guy. And so he literally handed the phone at lunch. I didn't know who he was talking about or anything like that. That was the beginning that's brought me here today. Okay? So all my life, all the things that I've worked for, all the things that I've stood for, the culmination of all those years of operational and strategy in healthcare, in network marketing, which I had never done before until about 10 years ago when I first joined the board of this company that I was referring to, the network marketing company. I've never done anything like that. All of that came to that moment when he handed the phone over to Fabio Galdi. And I didn't even know what we were going to talk about. But he introduced me at that point in time, and that started about several months of discussions between myself and Fabio and Alessandro and others in Italy and stretched around the world around the promise behind World Global Network. And so last July, I joined the company, not so much inside, but really as an outsider, running a company called MedNua. At the time, it was known as Pika Corp. The reason why I changed the name from Pika to MedNua is I found in doing my due diligence leading up to joining the company, there were 2 other Pikas. There were 3 total. Well, you don't, little secret when you're running a business, you don't want confusion out there around which company you're running. When people do Google searches and what have you, it's really nice to just be unique. So there were 3 companies. The other 2, much older than Pika, much more established, and I knew the more we got successful with our Pika, the more we were going to face a challenge legally. So one of the very first things I did is move the name to MedNua. But my point is, I was on the outside looking in, adding value and bringing things forth that you will hear about quite soon, all of you. A lot of really cool stuff in the works. And that was being germinated and being born out of MedNua. But I had the fortune to work in the Provo office, where World Global Network's U.S. customer base, customer service base, and what have you lives. I live in Park City. It's about a 40-minute drive. I would go into the office and work and do my thing when I wasn't traveling or what have you. And what I was doing for all of that time was I was observing. In fact, I had the privilege of coming to the October event in Las Vegas, and I came to the CES event in January, also in Las Vegas, and other events that I was able to interact and meet some of you, but most importantly, I was watching, I was observing. Because this company has so much promise, so much opportunity in front of it. Not only from a product standpoint, a vision standpoint, a culture standpoint. You can go down through a list and check things off. Does it have this? Does it have this? And it's all in the yes category. But my observations were incredible company from a promise standpoint, but has grown quickly and gotten ahead of itself in terms of operations. Okay? Now, is that unique? Is that unusual? Absolutely not. In some respects it is, because the company grew so fast. Other companies would die to have the growth in the time period that this company has had. So what a great problem to have. And all of you should be commended for giving the company that problem. Okay? But normally I'm one of these kind of people that don't use the word problem, use challenge. Whatever. Whether it is a problem or a challenge, that's what it is. So my observations were, boy, this company is so incredible, but it could be even better if it executed better. Excellent execution is not easy, but it's also not impossible. So I had these 6 or 7 months of observations, and finally I couldn't take it any longer. And about 6 or 8 weeks ago, and this I would put in the category, be careful what you ask for, I called Fabio, someone that I interact with regularly anyway, but I called him and I said, Fabio, I'd like to get together with you, face to face, soon. Doesn't matter where, quite literally, anywhere in the globe. And we ended up meeting about a week or so thereafter in Miami for 2 days. This is just a little over a month ago. And I told him why I was coming. I've been observing things for 6 or 7 months, and I'd like to go over them with you. Someone way back when, I think it was my father, taught me if you're going to come with any kind of observations or recommendations, make sure you come with solutions. Don't just lay it out, boy, you got all these challenges or problems, and then say, thanks very much, look at the time, I've got my flight to catch. Quite the contrary. Come with solutions. And that's exactly what I did 6 or 8 weeks ago in Miami over 2 days with Fabio. And I'm here to tell you, Fabio's reaction was emphatically his head nodding up and down, not left to right, and immediately saying, so Doug, how can we fix this? How can we get this better? Because of all of you, what you represent. So that led to yet another meeting. Chad and Natita were there in Singapore a couple weeks thereafter, where we really solidified a new role for me, where I'm going to be moving out of MedNua as CEO and into this role, really working closely with all of you on all things sales, and I'll define that as events, recognition, training, the whole curriculum, all of that in sales, field development, field support. Okay, everything from the very large event right down to the individual events regionally held throughout the world on a regular cadence. Marketing, social media, website, all materials, all videos, all tools, everything that can help you be more successful. That's everything under marketing. So really everything that would touch the field from a sales and marketing standpoint. But then maybe most importantly, the liaison, that touch point between all things operations, because let's face it, the company is geographically dispersed throughout the world. There's different time zones, different languages, different cultures. How can we make that, how can we bridge that gap so that those are not challenges for you? That's the liaison role that this area of responsibility that I've been given is going to be all about. All that said, I'm here now. I've just spent 20 years of my career. It has armed me appropriately to be successful for you. All that said, let me tell you, I am incredibly excited for the opportunities that are in front of us. And as I look out even in this room and see the looks on your faces and your heads nodding up and down and things like that, I'm really excited to get started. That said, it's going to take some time, not a lot of time. I mean, these are all, every single one of the issues is absolutely fixable. Okay? That's the good news. So it'll happen soon. Please have patience. You'll know, and again, for those of you that have ever worked with me before, you know that I am accessible. I'll try to do everything and anything I possibly can in terms of time frame, accessibility, what have you. But do know this, and that's why I think I shared the story about how I exited my last company. I am always going to do the right thing. Always. That includes if you really, really, really want something, and ultimately, not what we should do, I'm going to tell you as much. I'll give you all the reasons, but I'm going to tell you as much. No, it's not, we can't do that for these reasons now, tomorrow, a month from now, 2 years from now, if in fact that's the case. I have to tell you a quick story. This picture that's in front of you of me, so this all my life thing, you know, you got these snapshots in time. That particular picture, for whatever reason, I don't serve this picture up, but people grab it off the website or something for an event like this and say, oh, let's get that picture of Doug. I lived in Seattle for 30 years. I live in Park City now, but my reason for telling you I lived in Seattle, I love seafood. Okay, coming from a city like that, I ate a lot of seafood in my life. This particular picture was taken in a February or March time frame, middle of winter in Utah, and the night before, I had lobster. Never order lobster in Utah in February. Okay? I have never been more sick for 12 or 14 hours all night long, and the next day, we had our management picture taken. So I laugh when I look at this picture because I don't even know how I was sitting upright with a suit on, getting my picture taken, and to this day, it's still grabbed as, well, let's get that picture of Doug. Little side story. So that's really all I wanted to bring forth for you today. Things happen for a reason. I am here. I couldn't be more excited. I'm excited for our future. I could go on and on and on, but I think we need to make up some time in the schedule today. As much as Julie said, there's no agenda. Ramaccio's 10-minute introduction went a little longer than that. But what I do want, what I offered up to Ramaccio yesterday, and I love doing this, especially in groups of this size, because it's very doable, is to kind of have a town hall type thing. I've done this for years through many, many different businesses, and kind of ask questions, you know, ask and answer questions if you were to have them. So get used to that style with me when we get together in future times. Know that I will always make myself available. A lot of times it's over meals while you guys are eating, and I can field the questions and what have you. So I think, is Ramacio going to come up? Is that okay? That's what we're going to do right now.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and I'm going to represent everyone and ask the questions of you. So, first of all, I want to thank you very much for spending the time. We know that you are extremely busy on all of our behalf. I can't even imagine. I mean, you guys always. Yeah, especially, and believe me, I've had a privilege of having a little bit of exposure to Doug, but he really, really, truly has hit the ground running and more so. I mean, the very first week he mentioned about being in Singapore, and then that following week he had a meeting with me and Ramacio and some distributors. I mean, it was like his 4th day on the job, you know, and then going right into a meeting with corporate and things like that. So he really is, from what we've already seen, like you hear Ramacio say a lot of times, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. We've already seen what Doug does, and it's not just walking, he's been like running. So thank you again very much for being here, because I know how valuable your time is. So anyway, so some of the questions that that we represent distributors, you touched on it a little bit. I don't know if you can expand on it a little bit more, but what is your vision for the next 2 years for North America?
Great. Well, I think North America, so everyone heard the question. North America is such an incredible market, and we barely scratched the surface. So first of all, I've been accused of, appropriately so, of being the consummate optimist, but why not be optimistic with all things World Global Network in North America, for instance? I mean, there's nothing like what we have. There's no other company. I mean, let's even step outside of the network marketing world and talk about the smart band world, things like that. Something that you're going to learn about very soon that I've been working on with MedNua. I teased it in October in Las Vegas, for those of you that might have been there and heard that. We have teamed up with the premier DNA networking and sequencing lab in the world. That particular lab was working very closely with Fitbit, Garmin, and Under Armour on their smart band, and said no to all 3 of those companies for us.
Wow.
That had little, if anything, to do with the fact that we distribute our products through network marketing. It had everything to do with the efficacy of the smart band itself, and importantly, where Hilo is going. Okay? So that's about as much as I'm going to tease right there. But to answer your question with respect to North America. So here we have a company that has really second to none products and vision for the future, coupled with a network marketing distribution model that I think done right, as I described earlier, excellent execution, etc. Nothing can match it. Lastly, we barely scratched the surface. Okay, so we're so new, we're young, we have so much in front of us in terms of the market share, etc. So my vision for the next 2 years is run fast, run hard, know that your company is going to be there for you, thick and thin, and that we're going to build an operational system and infrastructure to support you, second to none.
Yeah.
That's our responsibility, and to me, it's just a given. It's a given. A lot of hard work, I was saying earlier, just before this, a lot of hard work in front of us, so be it. You know, things that are worthwhile are tough, and they take work. So that's just what's in front of us, but the vision is huge, absolutely huge. And it goes, you know, I've had people say, wow, wouldn't it be great? I sat on the DSA board for a number of years, and one of the people, Doug DeVos, who's the son of, he's the current CEO of Amway, but the son of the Amway founder. At the time, Amway was doing $1 billion a month in sales, okay, worldwide. So they were, and are, the biggest network marketing company, 12 billion. That's still a small number. It's still a small number. So my vision is that big. I know Fabio Galdi's vision is that big. And others, I just named him one, but others really throughout the company. To get there will not be easy. Certainly I don't need to tell you that from a work in the field. Nor will it be easy from a corporate standpoint, but I believe it's our obligation. We have a responsibility to get there. For everyone in this room, everyone in corporate, but even more importantly, for all people that don't even know about World Global Network today. From a product standpoint, a company opportunity standpoint, that's our obligation. So why wouldn't we do everything we could to make that a reality?
Thank you very much. A little bit more tactical question. Trying to bounce around too much, but at the after CES, the company said that at the end of February they would announce when the extensive sugar trend would be released, but we haven't heard that yet. Do you have an update for us on that?
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm confident it will be relatively soon. We're already past when we thought it would be. We are just literally dotting I's and crossing T's, appropriately so. One of the things that one of my observations that I shared with Fabio is and we don't have the ability to roll back the clock. None of us do. But going forward, what I want the company to be better at is not making announcements, whether it's time frame or anything, until we know it to be real. Okay? That said, let me tell you what the motivation was and has been behind making announcements like that. It's an over-exuberance of optimism and excitement. Okay? That's actually good, but it's not appropriate in a business setting to run a company really, really, really well. So that's one example, but there have been others where timeframes have been put out or what have you. I love the exercise. I know everyone in this room has done it one time or another. When you gather a table, 10 or 12 people, and you have the first person whisper in someone's ear and it goes around the table. And it finally comes back to the original storyteller, and you're told a story that you've never heard before. Okay? It's actually kind of fun to do. In some settings, it's even more fun. You know, cocktail parties, really fun. I use that as an example of the exuberance that existed at the company, and we send in very innocent, well-intentioned manners, rumor out, and it takes from there. Now, even what you're saying around the extents, that wasn't rumor, that was actually stated, it was in written materials, etc. We will be doing a better job about that, because I think it's actually more impactful to gather the leaders first from the field and say, what's today, a Saturday? Say, next Friday, we are releasing XYZ. Here's the materials, here's the pricing, here's the promotional material, everything, okay? And then guess what? 6 days later, we do exactly what we said we were gonna do. That's incredibly important.
It's fantastic to hear these cultural type of changes that you're talking about with the
Right.
company. Absolutely, absolutely. The next question that I have then is how, as leaders and even as distributors, can we help with all of these different transition and changes that we know are coming?
Great question. I actually want you to do what you do best, and that's, go out and evangelize all things World Global Network, the business opportunity, our products. Do what you do best, knowing that your team at corporate is going to be doing our part as well behind the scenes. Now, that's all fine and good when you hear words like that. Someone once said words are cheap. It's really about actions and follow through. That's what I'm all about. Okay? I can't stand in front of a group like this, say the kind of things that I'm saying if I don't back it up. Because quickly my credibility goes completely away. So I would say in a word, trust is so critically important between corporate and the field. What comes with that, though, is communication. So one of the things that I'm working on already, and announcements are imminent, is that we're going to build an infrastructure. Well, that infrastructure starts with people, good people that will be working in the field. You'll know when people come on because we're going to make announcements. They're going to be on board, and then they're going to start working. They're going to be out in the field working closely with you, and we're going to build an infrastructure and a curriculum around all things training that makes sense. That's already happening, and announcements are imminent.
Awesome. And so you've already announced answered one of my next questions about reorganization type things. So I'll go ahead and move on. In Utah, customer service is there, and we've gone from last year, people couldn't even get a call back, or to be waiting on hold for hours, to now, they just pick up, well, we get the call back right away. So it's phenomenal what Cindy and the group has done there.
Right.
However, what we seem to experience now, and they're all great people, so we know and understand that they're the messengers, but when people call in, we want to know how can those people feel valued and not feel like they're the enemy. So for example, they may call in and say, my Hilo is broken. And then through a series of going back and forth with customer support, it's like, well, you need to send a video of your Hilo being broken. And it's like, how do I send a video of just showing you my dead Hilo? That type of thing. And it's this whole back and forth where they start to feel like they have to defend themselves, whereas they should feel, I'm part of the company, or even if I'm a customer, right? And feel that I'm calling with good intent,
right?
And don't feel defensive because I'm asking these things.
Right. So let me give you an example. I just had this very conversation with a distributor just the other day. I don't think she's here today. She's in Minneapolis. I don't think she could make this trip. But this issue came up, and I used an analogy. I'm sure many of you in this room have, at one time or another, shopped at Nordstrom. Okay? High-end retail chain born out of Seattle years and years ago, 100 years ago, but about 30 years ago, they became bigger regionally and then nationally and then beyond. But up until about 30 years ago, they were really just in Seattle and surrounding areas. They have a philosophy where they know, and they're a high-end retail store, they know from their data analytics that 5% of their customers are going to steal from them. 5%. And they chose to take an attitude and a perspective around all things customer service and culture, that they're going to focus on the 95%, not the 5%. Okay? And therefore, when you want to try something on at a Nordstrom, you're not given a tire with a key on it, to go to the changing room. You're not interrogated on how many pieces you're going to bring in there, and when you walk out before you get 3 feet from the changing room, I want to see all 7 of those pieces, or whatever it is. Because they know, I'm going to flip it now, 95% of their customers are honorable, honest, hardworking people that just want to shop at Nordstrom and buy something there. So why focus on the 5%? Where I'm going with this, you can probably connect the dots, is I think in our world of customer service and customer care, we know, and Fabio will tell you this, Fabio totally agrees, there will be a certain percentage of our kilo that doesn't work, or doesn't work correctly, or it has something wrong with it. Well, the same is true for Apple, for HP, for any car, any automobile, whatever it is, there will be manufacturing defects or challenges or whatever they might be that causes you to go back and move on to another product. We want to make sure that we're focusing in on the people that it's working well for, et cetera. So that starts with a cultural mindset, and we're going to get there. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to use that kind of Nordstrom analogy for how we want to super serve our people.
I've got a question. I was sitting in the back and I got a chance. You know what I'm going to say?
Give it up for Julie. Isn't she awesome? She's got all the questions written out professionally, book knowledge. That's true, that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. Modeling, that's right. Awesome. One question that I wanted to bring up, I was sitting there thinking, I didn't know if it was on your list, but I'd like to interject and ask, is Doug, share with us your vision, for, I believe that everything is about vision. If you really want to build a big team, it's not about details, although details always support a vision. But the thing that the consumer or the prospect really, really needs to hear, what's the vision? And they need to hear it in a very short, quick way so that they can say, I want to know more or I don't. But from your vantage point and your perspective, with all of your experience, what turns you on about this deal from your vantage point? So I want them to hear what your vision is, because I think it's quite impressive.
So, and I'll get to this quickly. I'm going to use another analogy. I love history. I love world history, especially 20th century history. World War II, in fact, was just a fascinating time. And one of the great figures, I believe, that came out of World War II was Winston Churchill, heading up the United Kingdom and all that they were challenged with. We can only imagine. I know there's a gentleman here from London, but coming from the United States, we could only imagine, because we've never had that happen before, where someone, an oppressive regime was just coming at you, bombing every single night. Well, we all know, this is history, that England prevailed. And there was a Time Life reporter that interviewed Winston Churchill right after the end of World War II, when he was successful and they prevailed. And they asked him about democracy as a form of government. What do you think? Because if you think, fascism, Nazism, socialism, communism, all of those other forms of government were toppled basically in form of democracy. And with no hesitation, he said, it's the worst form of government except all others. Okay? Incredibly poignant statement if you think about it. The worst form of government except all others. So where am I going with this? Healthcare, that I spent 30 plus years in, the US healthcare system. It's arguably the best healthcare system in the world. Anyone of means comes to the US for a difficult surgery or care or what have you, okay? But I will tell you, our healthcare system here is the worst healthcare system in the world, except all of it. Or excuse me, it's flip it, okay? You just got that wrong. But you know where I'm coming from. As flawed as it is, it's still better than all others. So where is healthcare going? Healthcare is going to the individual, the empowered individual. And it starts with having really good personalized data, real-time data. How's my heart functioning? How's my blood oxygen level? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here you have these smart bands that are popping up frequently from all kinds of credible companies, most of which are credible companies, but they're focused on lifestyle things. How many steps did I take? Various different things. It's all important. Movement is important. But how many companies are focusing on individualized healthcare and medicine? And how can you connect with your care providers? Notice I didn't say provider. It's often multiple providers. How can you do that? So when Ramasio first introduced me and made that connection to Fabio, I did my due diligence. Remember I said I didn't even know who this guy was or anything about the company? I started to really look into it. And I realized we were onto something, technologically, and then also from a distribution standpoint, the marriage of those two things. So, long way of saying my vision, where we're going with our technology, with this distribution model, linking that to your own personal DNA. I think the diet industry, the exercise industry are about to be completely blown up. That's right. From us. Yep. In a very positive way. So again, I think the sky is the limit. I mean, oftentimes I'm asked, can you put a market estimation on what we could do, blah, blah, blah? No, I can't. Because I actually think every single person could stand to wear a helo and link to their providers and have their providers understand what's going on with us on a real-time basis, because that's where healthcare is going. It's going to the empowered individual.
Yeah.
Second question, follow up. Talk a little bit, if you would, about the life sensing technology. We say that a lot. This is where health and technology meets. We encapsulate that with, this is life sensing technology. For people that are going to go out and share that to people, in their marketplace that know nothing about life sensing technologies, it's almost like, what you talking about? What's the scope of what that really means?
Well, the best way I can answer that is with two simple words that I think are incredibly prevalent within the four walls of World Global Network, World Technology Corporation, and that is, what if? I wish I had $1 for every time I have been in conversations dating back a year with various different people, starting with Fabio and everyone thereafter, that constantly say, what if? Fill in the blank. What if we could do this? What if there was a sensor that could detect in a non-invasive way for diabetics or pre-diabetics blood glucose content? What if we could do that? Well, it's one thing to ask the question, it's another to go out and seek the answer. And that's what we have a company filled with, are people that are asking the question, first of all, what if? And then tasking really smart people to go out and find the answer to that. And guess what? This is similar to what I said earlier around my operational mindset. Sometimes the answer is, what a great idea, still years away. Can't do it. We don't have that sensor yet, that life sensing technology. But guess what? We're working on it. So life sensing technology starts with an inquisitive